So it's now my pleasure to introduce you to our first presentation of today. Please welcome Hamish Morgan, Measurement Lead at Facebook, and Iman Behzadian, Head of Data Science at WooliesX. Hamish is going to start off with a presentation on omni-channel measurement in retail and follow up with a Q&A discussion with Iman on how Woolies are putting this into practice. Welcome to MeasureUp, Hamish and Iman.
Thanks, Nat. Thanks for having me, and good to see you all, or sort of see you all in this virtual world. And a big shout out to all the Melbourne peeps out there with me. Hang in there, guys. We're almost there.
You're welcome to take the screen. Yeah.
I will take the screen. And away we go.
Yep, you got it.
Terrific.
Perfect.
There we go. Okay, so as Nat mentioned before, I'm going to take you through just some sort of bite-sized insights into what we're seeing at Facebook in terms of both during the COVID period and then what we see is coming out of there. And then we're going to go through some hard-hitting questions with Iman, who's really an expert in this field and someone that I've been working really closely with for, well over 2 years now. So my name's Hamish, as Nat introduced me before. I've been working at Facebook for a bit over 2.5 years now, and I cover the retail book. So I look after many of the big retailers that you probably shop at with daily. And I've been on a pretty interesting journey with a lot of them going through the through this COVID period. It's fair to say that there's been a lot of bumps along the way, and we've learnt a lot as teams about what the customer needs and how we need to respond to them. And so I'm going to share some of those insights with you then first. Then I'm going to jump to some Q&A with Iman, and also there is time at the end of my presentation and my interview with Iman for any questions from the audience as well. So if you've got any good ones, please don't try and stump me, but I'm sure if any of the content does drive some further questions, please feel free to reach out in the Q&A box down below, and Nat will relay that back to me. So like we've seen, and I'm sure you're all aware that shopping has fundamentally changed during COVID, and that's no surprise whether you're in Australia where retail's been locked down, if you're in Asia where things have been extremely locked down as well, and New Zealand as well, and there's probably some others around the world tuning in. But it's fair to say things have leapt in a very different direction than anyone was anticipating. And so with that comes a new set of expectations. And before COVID, what we were seeing in globally, we were seeing that at least 8 out of every 10 purchases was happening in store for the retailers. So if you think through the through that chain of the North America, Australia, High Street, United Kingdom retail scenario, most of that is driven by bricks and mortar sales. There is definitely a prevalence and a growth of e-com coming through there, but most of those sales were happening in store. But whilst they were happening in store, a lot of those journeys, in fact, the majority of those journeys are starting online in some particular way, shape or form. But then COVID hit, and you're going to hear that a lot over the next couple of years, but then COVID hit. But when COVID hit, what we saw from that was, and what you can see on the screen now is that the US economic penetration percentage of retail sales, but what you can see is this rapid jump to online. And in part that is due to necessity, in that shops are closed. Particularly in parts of Australia, we went through hard lockdown, and if you're in Melbourne, retail is still closed right now. And what we also saw through that is a real adoption of unique ways of reaching the customers. And one of my colleagues at Facebook likes to describe this as, we went from this transition to online that was taking a slow boat of about 3 years, and that happened in about 8 weeks. And we've jumped to this place now, and retailers had to jump on board and get with it really quickly, and so the customer. And so what we've also seen is 85% of people are now shopping online globally. And those two numbers there, which I think are really interesting, is that the Gen Xers and the baby boomers as well have jumped on board, and their time spent shopping has dramatically increased too. So there's this big adoption that's happened, either through necessity of the shops aren't open, or just for security and safety. Some people don't want to be outside, and it's just easier to be shopping online in those situations. But with that also comes that we know that there is going to be a pivot back at some point. And I'll just draw your attention to this graph here, this table here, in that we know that whilst there is a necessity right now for some regions and still for that safety purpose, there is still a preference to pivot back in some way, shape or form to the old world, or in this COVID normal that we keep being referred to, that there is going to be some sort of shift back of customer behaviour. And you can see here that there is definitely a prevalence in many of these sub-verticals listed above, that whilst I'm purchasing online now, I would still prefer to buy in store. So how does a retailer deal with this? Because we've already shifted once, now we're going to have to shift again, but we don't know where we're shifting to. And so what that leads us to is that we know that the path to purchase is going to become even more dynamic. We know that through surveys we've put in the field with Ipsos, that 57% of survey respondents said that they want to resume regular activity over time. Over time, we don't know what that means though. We don't know how that will transition, and we don't know in what way, shape or form. But it's really an important concept for the retailers out there to understand that customers are going to be nervous. There is going to be this shift in expectations that need to be met by a retailer in order to meet the customer where they are comfortable. And so I never thought I'd ever saw a retail side that talked to safety, but here we are, in that convenience and safety is determining where people will shop when they come out. And that's what we're getting back from our survey results when we're running these in field, that safety and convenience are really, really going to be vital for re-establishing or restarting that in-store shopping experience in whatever format that is. So whether that is providing the safety in store, or whether that is also offering solutions like buy online, pick up in store, or put in boots, and all these other ways that retailers are finding to make these frictionless and contactless shopping experiences attractive to our customers. And so I think we're going to see this further blurring of lines between digital and physical retail. And it's going to be fascinating to watch, but it's going to be really difficult for retailers to react so quickly in order to make sure that they are at front of mind when a customer is thinking, I need to go buy this widget. Where do I get it from? I need to go somewhere where I'm comfortable and safe, or I need to go where it's convenient. So what we're going to see is this need and this absolute desire from the customer to find comprehensive product information. I don't know if any of you have noticed in your online shopping experiences the frustration when you don't actually know exactly what the product is you're buying, but because it's not open, you actually have to just either buy it or not buy it and consider the refund or the return. We're going to be definitely leaning towards more personalized discovery now. We've seen a number of retailers like Coles and Dan Murphy's throw out the paper catalogue. And now we're watching this transition to how do I deliver a personalized experience at scale in a digital platform. We're going to need to understand how customers can transition between a shopping experience, both inline and online, in-store and online seamlessly, so that the customer's known and it's a seamless experience. And that's going to give them that convenience. And also it's going to deliver that frictionless experience where it's something that is not a chore in order to meet this new world that we're going to be walking into. But in measurement in all of that, there becomes a serious challenge in that a lot of sales, it can be easier to measure online sales because they happen through an online pathway. But obviously, we know as people transition back to the COVID normal world that those sales are going to come back in store. And there is this this thought process that has been out there for some time, and it probably doesn't exist on the people on this call because you're all very smart people in the measurement and analytics and optimization world. But in some retailers, there is this concept that digital advertising or online advertising only affects online sales. And we know that that's not the case. So particularly at Facebook, what we've seen is that we need to provide an easy way for retailers to link that in-store transaction with the online activity. And so we've got a number of ways of doing that. And I'll take you through some of these, and then we'll talk more broadly with Iman about how WooliesX Group have achieved this as well. So there are a number of ways in which we can do it. That there's the basic way of bringing data in and viewing it in Ads Manager and Facebook Attribution, which gives you an attributed store sale. But really the gold standard in measurement is when we can run a controlled experiment and we can hold out a group and we can state with confidence that an ad on Facebook drove a purchase in store. And so we feel that this is really where retailers need to be playing in either that attributed store sales, or if they can, to get to that point of understanding the incremental sales or incremental conversions or incremental buyers that their advertising is delivering to their business. So in that, we need signal. So signal, as the people on the call will know, signal and data is where this game's won. So from Facebook's perspective, we've got 3 ways of helping retailers work with us in providing those signals. The first one is the Facebook Pixel and the conversion API. So you're probably hearing, for those of you dealing with Facebook at the moment, you're probably hearing a few conversations about conversion API at the moment. And that has to do with how we transition into this new world of iOS 14 and IDFA and so forth. So, but what this does is gives us a view into the granular transactions that are occurring on your websites. And also we do have the ability to attach some code to the Facebook Pixel in order to understand any BOPUS or buy online pickup in store behavior from your customers. If you're running an app, we have the Facebook SDK that gives you that same functionality. And then if you then want to start tracking your in-store conversions from your online activity, that's where we start to talk to offline conversions. And offline conversions is where Facebook have the ability to join activity on our platform with the transactions that are happening in a physical presence in a bricks and mortar capacity. And so we've got 3 ways of getting there here. We've got the simple way, which is uploading transactions, and that's done through a CSV file, and there's no technical expertise required, and it's very simple. We've got a number of partners who can help retailers with this as well. And then there is the big daddy of API integration. So this is actually snapping directly into our offline conversions API and providing a real-time connection between your transactions and our activity. And in all of these, what this does provide, it gives you certain options aside from measurement down the road of delivering optimized advertisements to your customers. So driving people in store who are more likely to go in store, as an example. And as you can see on the bottom there, the technical expertise or the maintenance required, it transitions to the right of the screen here, in that CSV is very easy to upload. API integrations can be quite difficult, and that's why we have a set of partners in the middle to help you. But I think that's enough from me. I'd like to introduce Iman, if I could. Iman, you're there.
Hi, Hamish.
Hi, Iman. Welcome to MeasureUp.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we are very glad to have you here. So, I'll just, there we go, resume share, there we go, sorry. So Iman, we've been working together for about 2.5 years at Facebook now, and we actually met back in your Analec days, where Carl and I were working with you on an auto MMM of all things, an auto MMM meta. But it's been a fun journey, and we've done a lot together. So perhaps if you could start by introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about your role at WooliesX. Tell us a little bit about WooliesX too, because there might be some people who don't exactly know what WooliesX is and how that snaps into the wider Woolworths group, and also about your journey and how you got here.
Absolutely. So WooliesX is basically the data and digital arm of Woolworths Group. And the rationale of having a separate entity was to basically attract the smarts and talent required for data capabilities and digital capabilities. So the loyalty program, rewards program, as well as the e-commerce part of the business are sitting with WooliesX. And as the data science team, we are trying to personalize the offers and provide, really personalized message and offer with the right depth to the customers, especially in this hard time that the offers can help the Australians with, sometimes a bit hardship of financial, the recession that we have at the moment. And predominantly we've been active in targeting and measurement using data science approaches, and we kind of see that as flip side of the same coin. We target using data science capabilities, and we measure our success and optimize, and we feedback that to the targeting engine.
Right. Yes. So, and it's a lot of work, obviously, to plumb that and get that to market at scale, and it's quite a difficult problem. But in terms of, if I could just focus on WooliesX for a minute, could you just walk me through, because it's quite a unique organisation. I've spent a lot of time both in your actual buildings and talking to many of your staff and the team there. And it's quite a unique organisation that it's very fast. It's trying to do a lot of things very quickly, and it does it really well. And it's got a great talent team there. Like you've been very fortunate to grab some great resources and really smart people there. But I wonder if you could just tell me a little bit about, the strategy that you have in terms of data science and delivery inside the building.
Absolutely. As you said it, Hamish, it's more about the people and capability rather than the products. We've been trying to attract smart from, across the board, whether it's, whether we have some astrophysicists in the data science team, we have a lot of engineers. And so firstly, we are looking for problem solving and creativity and learnability as the three main skills. And also organizationally, there's a very good integration between marketing teams and data science team. And we have that collaboration culture that data scientists are not just working on some cool technologies, they are actually solving the everyday problems that marketing team throw at us. And I think that's probably one of the main kind of secret sources of success in any organization. I think to a good extent, this culture is because of the good relationship on GM level from GM of data science and AI and GM of marketing, and the very great integration that we have on that level.
Yeah, and also and recently you've just shifted to an agile delivery method, and actually I think you're still in the midst of breaking that down. How's that going? Because I've been through it myself in a previous world, and it's not easy. And I'm sure there are people on the call that have been through it or are in it at the moment. It's not an easy thing to do. So have you got any tips and tricks for the team out there?
Well, it's absolutely not easy at all, but it's very fruitful and productive. We can see already the changes that it's making to the ways of working structure and how much efficiency we can expect in the coming quarters. So basically, Agile is all about having very self-contained and sustainable squads that end-to-end, all the capabilities required are sitting with each other. So a back-end developer or a data scientist or a marketer and the client-facing, let's say a JavaScript developer, for example, they are all in it for solving the problem. Therefore, end-to-end overview is provided to the team members. So yes, it's not easy at all, but definitely it's worth the change from the hub structure to agile structure.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So I think probably where I'd like to just go on a couple of paths here, but the first path I want to go is WooliesX has got a real commitment to incrementality, and it's a topic dear to my heart. Can you walk through exactly how WooliesX goes through the process of setting performance KPIs and provides motivation for the team to drive the business the way it does?
Absolutely. So talking theoretically and starting from the concept of KPIs, as the name suggests, it should be the best indicator of your performance. And it should have, let's say, linear relationship, having my data science hat on, a linear relationship with amount of effort that you put with the, how much efficiently and how optimized you work. That itself indicates that the base success or the base spend in our case should not be measured as part of the success. We should not open the champagne because the sales has gone over the last year or so. We know that it wasn't because of our performance. It was more because of change in the environment and COVID. Organizationally, on marketing activities that we run, we use incrementality as the main KPI. So there can be easily a particular, let's say, transaction or a particular customer's order that has lower value, but we identify a bigger portion of that is incremental. And we optimize our targeting engine to target such a person rather than some other customer that would have had a bigger purchase. But even if we don't do any marketing at all, that purchase would have happened anyway. This is easy in theory and hopefully everyone is agreeing, but how to identify that incremental portion of a basket is a real challenge that we are using data science to solve the problem.
And perhaps that's a good segue then to dive into how you do it, and really try and give the people at home and on the call just some ideas about how to implement such a comprehensive process. I mean, measurement at WooliesX is embedded into everything you do, and I think that probably the framework that you have at the moment has got to be close to best in class in Australia and possibly globally as well, from what I've seen, given the ingestion of data and the application and drive through deterministic models and probabilistic models as well. Can you give us, from a high level, of course, don't give away the secret sauce, but can you just give us a view about how that process works of understanding incremental benefit driven from customers?
Absolutely. So without giving the IP away, as I said it, high level, we put ourselves in the shoe of the customer. We don't try to see the ball from our business point of view, but from the customer's point of view. Our measurement is all customer driven, not business focused. It means if you have a new campaign, it doesn't necessarily mean that the customer is going to spend more, because the discretionary income of the customer is limited. It's even more likely to be limited in this financial year with all the financial hardships that Australians have. So first thing is to understand that the transactions are all coming from same pocket. It doesn't depend on the campaigns that we run. It doesn't depend on point of sale. It's not that customers have two pockets, one for online transactions and one for in-store transactions, as a good example. So measurement is on customers. It's not on campaigns or any other, construct of business. Secondly, we have the overlap, or we have separated the decisioning or measurement stages. So we have the overlap of channels, we have the overlap of campaigns, and the offers. So we try to include as much as possible from all the activities that we do, and measure in presence of all those signals.
Yep.
And maybe lastly is having high quality base reference, be it groups or whole groups or whatever else that is getting used. So having a group of customers that we are completely putting them in dark is an important point, and to make sure we know what would have been the natural demand of the market, regardless of our marketing activities.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? Understanding that baseline activity, what would happen if there was no advertising? What is that baseline drive? And in that, and it's probably a good segue to that as well. How do you know if the measurement's working, and how are you then? How does that give you the confidence to then take that up the chain to be actionable to CMOs and MDs and over to Woolies Supers and these sort of places?
That's a very good question. In measurement, we are in a space that there's no source of truth to cross-validate the model. For example, even if you explicitly ask the customer that, let's say a customer is leaving a Woolies supermarket, we ask them, from the $100 that you spend with us, how much of that do you think is incremental? Or how much of that do you think is incremental of the ads that you've seen on Facebook or Google or other channels? They themselves can't answer that. So it's a really hard challenge to validate your models. To us, consistency and responsiveness to the effort that we've put in our marketing activities is the key. So we make sure that measurement engines that we make don't overclaim success.
Yes.
Let's say if we run a hypothetical campaign, and the campaign is nothing, we just pretend that we had a campaign on a group of customers, and we feed that group to our measurement engine, and we see the incrementality claimed is 100K, that shows that our measurement methodology is over attributing.
Yes. Yeah.
At the same time, we see when we have every other parameter being the same, then we have, for example, double the audience size, or when we have double some other parameters of the campaign, how much the incrementality has gone up. If it has nearly gone up twice, well, that's a great news. But if it has just gone up like 1% or 2%, it means that what we were initially measuring wasn't incrementality. It was the base as well as incrementality. Yeah. And that base, of course, is not going to be doubled because we are, targeting a bigger group of customers, for example.
Yeah. And what's your go-to hypothetical campaign, Iman?
Well, we have a running joke. We use the Dove beer company from, Simpsons.
Yes, that's good.
We pretend that we have a kind of a partnership with that. And we see if we get any incrementality from that hypothetical campaign. Yeah,
good. Hopefully you don't. In terms of the data that you're using and the models that you're developing and then productionizing to run the beast, what does that look like, and how much work is involved in maintaining and developing that?
We have a strategic partnership with Google, and all of our data science capabilities are on Google platform.
Yep.
And maintenance of it should not be underestimated. So it's one thing to develop the capability, and it's another thing to have continuous improvement and development. That when organizations are planning, they should consider both components.
Yeah.
In terms of our strategy, we, after a proof of concept, we always go for data science solutions at scale. We don't do any ad hoc analysis from measurement point of view, and we aim to get to an engine stage rather than data science for ad hoc requests. And of course, the machine learning development part and the data science part goes hand in hand. There are a lot of engineering components involved for data collection and feature engineering that is just as important as the data science stage. At the moment, methodologies are so sophisticated that the competition is now more on quality data and quality feature engineering stage that should be acknowledged here.
Yeah. And then in terms of how that then goes out to market. So you have one of the most comprehensive loyalty programs in Australia. So how does the models that are developed, the data that's ingested, the smarts that you put into the machine, how does that then translate into actions and activities, both online and offline?
Well, the key is the word that you just used, online and offline. I make this saying kind of popular in our organization that if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes multiple campaigns and channels and point of sales to convert a customer.
Yep.
Having strategic partnerships with tech giants such as yourself and Facebook and Google, and also aiming to include what is reality of transactions, which is the effect of online on in-store as well as in-store on online.
Yeah.
And planning for a strategic solution that ongoingly it can feed the required data is the key. We should try to isolate the effect of our own campaigns activity because that's what sits on the my team, and ignore everything else that is happening to the point that there's no technical limitation. We have to keep including data sources. And lastly, I am a big fan of deterministic methodologies because of the accuracy that it has, and because it doesn't use any assumption. So it's not trying to explain the variation of sales, for example, based on variation on, let's say, investment level that we have on weekly or monthly basis, but it is looking at every single transactions or engagement of our customers with our platform. So it's built on billion rows of data rather than just thousands of rows of data on investment.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned the strategic partnerships that you've got with both Facebook and Google. Could you maybe just elaborate a little bit on how, say, Facebook and WooliesX work together and how we help you deliver these outcomes?
Sure. One of the great partnerships that we had with Facebook, with you guys, helped us to have quality control groups. That's just one of the examples. So imagine we are about to serve a campaign to a group of 1 million customers. If, let's say, 1 millisecond before we serve an impression to the customer, we hold that person back and we put that person in a control group or holdout, And we do that with a rate of 10%. So for 10% of our audiences, we always do that. We know the representation that we have in control group is exactly the same characteristic as the target group, because it was randomly selected at the very last millisecond before we start the campaign.
Yeah.
This on its own shows this is a very good quality control group, as let's say, in opposed to if we keep a control group on the 1 million customers that would intend to target, because as you know, there are a lot of dropouts in the funnel. So there can be some customers that we can identify on Facebook. There can be some customers that don't log in during the promo week to Facebook. So people that we think we've targeted are not exactly people that we are targeting.
Yeah.
So that's the big improvement that we had to our measurement engine thanks to this partnership.
Yeah, that's great. And then probably last question, and then I'll throw it to you, Nat, to have a look at any questions that have come from the field. There's a presentation coming shortly or later this morning talking about the importance of first-party data. And first-party data is obviously going to be a currency going forward now, and clean data and actionable data is going to be vital. So can you tell me a little bit about the importance of first-party data to Woolies and how you go about looking after that data?
Absolutely. Having a first-party data strategy is the key to success.
Yep.
Let's say if you're running a campaign and you just rely on the third-party data that you receive, being impression and clicks, while it's a good representation of the engagement of the customer with the campaign, it does not say anything about the customer himself or herself. It doesn't say anything about what life stage they are at, what's the, I don't know, the demographics or the location, and so on and so forth. And we know that in the black box being customers' decision-making process, it's not just the marketing activities that you do, it's also the life stage that he or she is in. So that's the first thing, to have a holistic view of the customer. And secondly, and most important thing to me, is to have a very strong loyalty program. The biggest loyalty program in Australia helped us a lot in terms of identifying the customers on different platforms and on different channels based on first-party data to make a real multi-touch attribution.
Yeah, that's great. Iman, thanks so much for your time. That's been very insightful and great to chat as always, like we do very regularly, but great to chat to you. And Nat, I'll throw to you if there are any questions from the audience.
Yeah, there are. Thank you so much, both of you, for speaking this morning, and so much on incrementality, which is absolutely close to my heart too, Hamish. I think fundamental to measuring success of campaigns. So thanks for that. The questions, a couple of the questions that have come through are a little bit related to what retailers are going through at the moment, the current situation, getting pulled in lots of different directions, and how to communicate, building trust to go back into store, seamless online experiences, and building out their digital offerings. Question: do you think COVID has meant that retailers have had to adjust their thinking to see the importance of digital and data?
I'll take that first, and then Iman, you've probably got some views on it. Look, absolutely. I think through necessity, right? There's so many businesses that are struggling right now because they weren't prepared, they weren't ready, and they haven't been able to pivot quickly enough in order to meet that demand. And we actually then see on the other side, you see those businesses that were ready to go and they turned it on really quickly and they've thrived. And I'm sure that if you thinking in your own head of some of the good customer experiences you've had online right now, you can identify 2 or 3 things about them being absolutely frictionless, and you know exactly what you're buying, and it wasn't a difficult transaction. And so some businesses haven't been ready for that, and some have, but just that fact of that friction point there has brought to light the importance of data and the importance of activating a great digital strategy. Iman, what are your thoughts?
No, absolutely, you're right. And, kudos to our website team and our colleagues in digital experience team. It's not easy to adopt when the traffic is going, twofolded or threefolded in a month. And basically, there are a lot of, not just in Australia, globally, there are a lot of changes that is due to this COVID situation. For example, online sampling in stores has a lot of hygiene and health risks.
Yeah.
It's ramping up globally in retail industry. There are a lot of other use cases, such as catalogs. So now there are a lot of attention to the digital catalogs in retail globally. It's not even limited to Australia. So the changes are coming. It's all about being agile and nimble and adopt based on whatever challenge that we have on a daily basis.
Thank you. And just probably one last one on measurement. So WooliesX, obviously a sophisticated a measurement business. For businesses out there who want to improve their marketing measurement, or address some of the changes coming into the future, what should they be doing right now? What's one piece of advice from you both for ramping up your measurement abilities and capabilities?
You first, mate.
No worries. I think maybe starting small and fail fast if we have to fail is always a very right kind of advice. So starting with a proof of concept on what we want and then ramping it up and putting the investment would be my first advice. And secondly, it's important to understand that the role of measurement is to be an indicator of your performance. Sometimes in organizations, it can be a challenge to discuss incrementality, because incrementality means smaller dollar values. Out of $100 basket sales, maybe, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, $5 is incremental. And everyone wants to celebrate bigger success, understandably. But the question is your measurement result kind of responsive to your performance or not? And that's what I aim for, and that's the cultural change that should happen in organizations.
Yeah, and my take on that would be data. It's first-party data is so important, and you can start small, but it knowing who your customer is so vital in understanding how to meet their needs. And so I would really encourage anyone who's starting down this path to really listen in on the session that's coming later, and then focus in on developing a quality first-party data strategy and making sure your data is clean and as well manicured as possible, because that then makes it usable and actionable, and it's going to be so important going forward.
Great advice from both of you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Great insight, and that's a great presentation. Thank you.
No worries, Nat. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Iman. Thanks, Hamish.
Bye.